It took me 14 years of fatherhood trial and error to figure out what I'm about to share with you in under 15 minutes, hopefully. These 4 rules that I swear by in my journey has helped me reclaim my time. Even outside of my role as dad, it has helped me build deeper connection with my children. And most importantly, it has made this journey of being a dad, being a parent, a lot more, I would say, rewarding and fulfilling. So if that's something that interests you, watch this video, and I so am confident that you'll find these 4 rules applicable in your own parenting journey. All right, so what's rule number 1? Rule number 1, and I have my handy dandy notes here, but rule number 1 is to let go of outdated parenting norms. You've probably heard this before, but how often do you actually practice this? Probably not much. You know why? Because we parent unconsciously, right? We parent how we were parented. And I always start these type of vulnerable topics when you're talking about how we were parented. I always empathize with my parents, especially my dad, right? Because he was parenting me how he was parented, right? But we have to start letting go of the outdated fatherhood norms, especially in parenting, because let's be honest, I don't know about your dad, but my dad wasn't doing inner work. My dad had no reason the way he was behaving the way he was towards me was because he was suppressing his emotions, or because he never got the ability to express how he felt to his father, or because he's just literally screaming at his inner child but directing it at me. He was not, my dad is Jamaican, right? He was not doing that type of work. So we have to empathize with our fathers and our parents, but we don't have to take it and parent our kids the same way, because then it's just a cycle, right? And so the first thing I want you to understand is you have to let go of outdated parenting norms, especially as a man and as a father. You know, it's okay to be vulnerable. So let's talk about, what does that look like? It looks like being okay with being vulnerable with your children, not looking at vulnerability as a weakness, but looking at it as a superpower, as a strength. That comes with being okay with parenting from your intuition, not just, I know everything, so I'm going to react this way because that's how I'm supposed to react. No, this may call for a different response based on how I'm feeling internally. The next week, something happens that may cause for a different response based on how I'm feeling internally. Parent from your intuition. I always say intuition is a feminine trait, but it is an energetic trait. That's all it is. So as men, as dads, we got to be okay with using our intuition. Doesn't make you less masculine, right? These are just energetic traits, and you have all of them. You have masculine traits and you have feminine traits. It's just energy. It doesn't make you less tough, right? And so we got to let go of these outdated parenting norms. I just think that's the first thing we got to do. That's, to me, that's the most important thing to kickstart it, is just let go of outdated parenting norms and just be okay with being vulnerable. Be okay with apologizing to your kids. You know, I apologize to my son. I also tell my son I don't view him as being lower than me on the human pedestal, right? I just essentially want to parent my kid how I wish I was parented, right? And you know what, I'd say this: if you don't take anything from rule number 1, it's take this away. Parent your children how you wish you were parented. All those things that your inner child yearned for, that affection emotionally, right? You wanted to be hugged. You wanted a kiss on the forehead, but you never got it. Supply that, provide that for your children, right? So let go of outdated parenting norms. The second thing, my handy dandy notes, is, okay, so this one is probably going to be the most deepest one to truly understand, but it is to stop getting attached to the label, the role dad. So let's break this down. I think this deserves an entire video, honestly. So I'm going to try to give you the fast forward version of this. What do I mean by that? What I mean is, if we are getting so attached to the label dad without realizing that it's a label, It's a role. Sounds crazy, right? I've built an entire business on this. I have a journal called the 365 Dad Journal. That's fine. It's a role, and we're proud of that role. We love being dads. It comes with ups and downs, but at the end of the day, we wear it like a badge of honor. But you also have to understand, dad is a label. Dad, somebody just made this word up and said, like, this means you're raising a kid. We're going to call you a dad. It's a role you're playing. You play many roles. You are bigger than just dad, right? You are an infinite being. So what that means is stop clinging to this role as dad, because what happens is when you cling to something and it shows you negatives, it shows you stress, it shows you downsides, you're not able to manage that adversity as well as you would be managing it if you just realize it's just a label. I'll give you a personal example. Because I built my entire identity around being a dad, anytime stuff goes wrong under that dad umbrella, I feel it a lot more, right? I'm getting better at this, but that's what happens because I've now wrapped up my whole identity into this role called dad. And so when dad shows me anything negative, when that role shows me anything negative, I'm like trapped in this tornado. I'm spiraling. As opposed to if I just realize it's a role, I'm going to do what I need to do within that role, but I'm not going to make that my identity, because when that identity shows me anything negative, I'm not going to suffer as much. I'm going to suffer less. Hope this makes sense, right? And so just start meditating on things like this. Start thinking about, like, okay, what does he mean by stop getting too attached to the role dad, right? And start thinking about ways which you've placed your entire identity on this label, right? And now, because you've placed your entire identity on this label, you truly cannot enjoy life to the fullest, right? If things within this label aren't going perfect for you. That's what I'm trying to get at here. You're going to suffer a lot less in your role as a dad. You're going to suffer a lot less emotionally and mentally if you just realize this is just I'm not going to place my entire identity in this role because it's just that, a role. I'm going to do a good job at it. I'm going to show up every day. But at the end of the day, when I lay my head down, I'm more than dad. I'm much more than that, right? I'm much more than a label. And so when adversity hits in the label, I'm not clinging, I'm not suffering as much. Okay. And number 3 I have is, this is a good one, especially if you have kids that are, like a little older, maybe middle school age, high school, is listen to understand, don't listen to fix. So mindful listening, that's the third one. Don't hear something that your kids are saying to you and already think in your head while they're talking, oh, I'm going to solve it right now. No, son. No, baby girl. This is how you fix this. This is right. Listen to understand. I say this all the time, like mindful listening is super overrated in fatherhood and parenting in general, because when kids are coming to you as a resource, especially if they're verbally expressing how they're feeling, they want you to listen. They don't want you to already know the answer, right? Think about when you go to your therapist or when you vent to your friends, what do you actually really want? You don't want the answer, right? But as men, we do it all the time where we just give answers. We try to fix everything. We just resolve things, but that's not what they want. They want you to listen to them. So practice mindful listening. This is something I've put in practice, I would say the last 4 or 5 years with my 14-year-old, is really being intentional on, like, okay, this is what he got going on. This is what he's telling me about. I'm just going to act like I don't know anything, right? I'm going to listen like I don't know anything. Back in my mind, do I think, oh, this is an easy fix? Probably, but I'm not going to present that to him. I'm just going to present that I'm someone here that you can talk to, right? So practice mindful listening to understand instead of listening to know, listening to fix, listen to understand. And the fourth and final rule is going to be, you have to prioritize your self-care and your inner work. You have to prioritize that. If you don't prioritize your self-care and your inner work, you are not going to be the father that you want to be. I assure you. I'm sure you want to be a great dad. I'm sure you want to be someone that's physically present, emotionally present, mentally present, spiritually present, all the things. You want to set a good example, right? But you can't do that if you yourself are like in the pits consistently. You can't do that if your battery is drained consistently, right? So what I do is make sure I make time for things that elevate my nervous system, that regulate my nervous system, things that ground me, things that center me. In the midst of all I have going on as a dad and as an individual outside of being a dad, I have to make sure that I'm doing practices that ground me so I can show up for my kids, my full self. Right? You have to fill your own cup, because if you don't fill your own cup, you're going to be pouring from a half empty glass, and they're not going to get the same you. They're not. They're going to get a stressed out you all the time. They're going to get a you that is parenting, but your mind is on 10 other things, right? So the best way I found to show up the way that I need to show up for my children is to fill my own cup. So for me, what that looks like is making sure I take time either very early in the morning or sometime midday to sit in silence. The other day, I was in my room. The house was nuts. A lot was happening. My kids were going crazy. My nephew was going absolutely crazy. It was a lot of noise and I was stressed out. I said, I gotta go regulate. So I come up here and I sit and I'm meditating, and my door, boom, bursts open, and it's my 14-year-old, and he goes, oh shoot, meditating, and he just left. You know what I mean? He just left. He said, oh shoot, meditating, sorry, and he left the room. And you know, I was able to sit for like 10 more minutes, gather myself, went downstairs and handled things how I felt it needed to be handled. If I didn't take that time to myself, I'm sure the neighbors would have heard me screaming or something like that. You know what I mean? You have to regulate, have to be able to fill your own cup, do things that bring you joy outside of being a dad, and don't feel guilty for that. That's another thing, I guess a bonus, extra fifth one. Let go of dad guilt, right? Don't feel guilty for wanting to do things on your own to fill your cup. Don't feel guilty for wanting to have time for yourself so you can prioritize your well-being, right? So those are the 4 plus 1 bonus. And so if you found this at all helpful, please subscribe and share with the dad out there, and check out the resources in the description. And I'll see y'all next week. Have a good one.